Ask most Europeans what they think they know about America, and you'll get the same list every time. Too big, too loud, too dangerous, and somehow, still the place half the planet secretly wants to move to. That contradiction is the whole story. If you want more videos digging into exactly that kind of contradiction, hit subscribe now, because this is going to come up a lot. Start with the thing nobody expects, the warmth. There's a particular kind of culture shock that happens when someone raised on a diet of American crime shows and school shooting headlines steps off a plane and gets treated like family by a total stranger within the first hour. Picture a shopkeeper waving off exact change because a tourist was a few cents short. Picture a stranger at a diner quietly picking up a check for a couple celebrating an anniversary they mentioned out loud once. Picture a police officer cracking jokes with a crowd of visiting fans instead of the stone-faced authority figure European travelers half expect. None of these moments are unusual in America. They are just rarely the version of the country that makes it into the news back home. A visitor from somewhere with a more reserved, keep-to-yourself social code can find that kind of unsolicited kindness genuinely disorienting. In a good way.
Hey, pal! Which way to Boston? That way! Which way? That way! Okay!
Who would win in a drinking competition between the Americans and the Brits?
Would you rather live somewhere colder but more private, or somewhere warmer but a little more in your business? That's the trait a lot of these visitors end up wrestling with. Then there's scale, which is its own kind of culture shock. A gas station in rural Texas can be the size of a small European supermarket, selling everything from barbecue to fireworks to 100 flavors of something you didn't know needed 100 flavors. Portion sizes at an ordinary diner can dwarf what passes for a large back home. The trucks are bigger. The highways are wider. The stadiums, especially with a tournament like the World Cup rolling through American cities, can feel less like sports venues and more like small cities themselves. None of this is really about excess for its own sake. It's a physical expression of a country that's never really had to think small, because it's never had to. That same logic shows up in the landscape. A European road trip might cover several countries in the time it takes to drive across a single American state. National parks stretch far enough that visitors from a country the size of a few counties can spend a full day driving and never leave the same park. Time zones alone can be a genuine head-scratcher for visitors used to a whole continent fitting inside 2 or 3 of them. It's less that Europe is small, and more that America was simply built at a different scale from the start, and encountering that in person tends to land differently than reading about it.
Let's go to Popeyes.
Popeyes.
Hey everybody, today we are in Richmond, which is considered one of
Safety is where the contrast gets sharpest, because it cuts against the stereotype most directly. Ask a European what they expect from an American city, and you'll usually get some version of dangerous. Ask one who's actually walked through a well-run downtown during a major event. Clean streets, visible but relaxed policing, crowds that mostly police themselves, and you'll often get a much more complicated answer.
Amerika'nın 의견.
That doesn't erase the real problems America has with gun violence or crime in specific places. It just means the picture most outsiders carry around is built from headlines, not visits. And headlines are selected for drama, not representativeness. Would you rather have the on-paper safety statistics of a place, or the lived experience of actually walking through it? Money is the part that tends to surprise people the most, in both directions.
I don't think there's enough alcohol in America to accommodate the amount of drinking that the British, the Scottish, and the Irish are going to do.
Stat verify or cut. Average take-home pay comparison can make American wages look enormous on paper, right up until someone explains what a single trip to the emergency room costs without insurance, or what a mortgage actually requires in a major city. Plenty of American workers genuinely do earn more than their European counterparts in the same field, and plenty of them are one bad month away from real financial trouble. Because the safety net that Europeans take for granted simply isn't built the same way here. That's not a simple America wins or Europe wins story. It's two very different bets about what a country owes its citizens, and visitors from either side tend to walk away with a stronger opinion than they arrived with. Patriotism might be the single hardest thing for a European visitor to get used to. Flags on porches, the national anthem before a Tuesday night minor league baseball game, small towns that turn a 4th of July parade into the biggest event of the year. In a lot of Europe, that kind of open, unironic national pride can read as slightly uncomfortable, even a little suspicious, a leftover of history that's better left in the past. In America, it plays completely differently. Less a statement about the government of the day, and more a kind of shared identity that holds together a country too big and too diverse to hold together any other way. You don't have to agree with it to notice that it's doing real work. Food culture rounds all of this out, because it's where the bigger, bolder, faster theme becomes something you can actually taste. Drive-through culture that lets you never leave your car for an entire meal. Tipping norms that catch nearly every first-time visitor off guard. And that can feel less like a courtesy and more like a hidden tax nobody explained up front. Regional specialties that turn into genuine rivalries, barbecue styles that people will argue about with the intensity most countries reserve for actual politics. It's a small window into the same theme running through everything else. America doesn't really do modest, even at a fast food counter. Put all of it together, and a pattern starts to form. Visitors who show up rolling their eyes at American excess tend to leave, having quietly revised at least one opinion, not because America has no problems, it clearly does, but because the gap between the country people imagine from a distance and the one they actually experience up close is bigger than either side usually admits. That gap is the whole reason these reaction videos keep getting made in the first place. So here's the actual question, not a rhetorical one. If you had to choose, would you rather have the safety net and the shorter work weeks, or the bigger paychecks and the bigger risk? There's no clean answer, and that's kind of the point. If you want the next video in this series, go ahead and like this one. Share it with someone who'd argue with you about it, and subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss where we go next. One last thing before you go. This video is a work of commentary and opinion, built around common travel narratives, cultural stereotypes, and publicly discussed contrast between European and American life, not a documentary account of verified events, and not a claim that any specific person, city, or moment described here is real. It's meant to spark discussion, not settle it, and it isn't a substitute for actually researching the countries, policies, or statistics it touches on. The channel isn't responsible for decisions anyone makes based on it.